taking time that I'm not being productive at my day job. When I had $100,000 to manage that was different than when I had a lot more than that. Having the interest of efficiency and time management, that's the right time to hand it over to a professional financial manager.
Welcome to AXR Investments Podcast, episode number 3. And today we're joined by none other than Mr. Ryan Hatcher of Austin, Texas. He has a great story to share with us. I'm very excited for everybody to meet. And without further ado, let me turn over to Mr. Ryan Hatcher. Thank you so much, Ryan, for coming over. Really do appreciate that. I know you've been traveling a lot, so thank you for stopping by.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Great to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. First thing, something that you can share a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, Ryan Hatcher. I've been in Austin for about coming up on 13 years. Love it here. I've lived in 7 different states, had 7 different driver's licenses throughout my life. So this is by far my favorite location. I don't want to go anywhere. I'm actually a physicist, focused my research primarily on radiation effects in silicon. And from there, I went to Lockheed Martin out of grad school and did advanced electronics and sensors for about 5 or 6 years. Some of the work, most of it was very unconventional, but some of it was very focused on silicon physics, underlying silicon physics, which landed me a role at Samsung here in Austin. Samsung has a big foundry up on the northeast side of town, and they were standing up a research lab that I think I was employee number 4 in that lab. Got to work on silicon technology, so chip technology for about 6 or 7 years. And then from there, I went back to Lockheed, and this time I was in the CTO's office, so the Chief Technology Officer's office, and I kind of pivoted in my career. Until that point, I was really an engineer, physicist engineer. I always say like a fake electrical engineer, learning my way. And then at that time, I took more of a business-facing role, and I became the corporate technology scout for Lockheed Martin, which was really a great honor and privilege. I got to talk to these amazing companies that were developing really amazing technology and building things, building the next generation in AI and cyber and space and comms and you name it. And
wow.
I got a chance to really dig in and see all these amazing companies and watch them progress. And my job was really to help them build their business by engaging with Lockheed Martin programs. Lockheed has 120,000 employees. They've got systems from deep sea all the way into deep space, everywhere in between. So it was great. You could argue I had maybe the best business card of all time because it was corporate technology scout for Lockheed Martin. Everyone wanted to would want to talk to me because it was a terrific opportunity to sell their vision and sell their products and services to Lockheed. Did that for a couple of years. Great job based on some of what I saw, and I got just a taste for it. I got a taste for venture capital. One of the hats I wore was a technical advisor to Lockheed Martin Corporate Ventures. So I got a chance to see how the venture capital business operates on the investment side, and it was fascinating. And then I got a chance to see startups and how they are able to grow and build their vision and convert their vision to something that's real in the world. And I found my own vision, my own opportunity. It's a company called Phoenix Semiconductor, which I started about 2 years ago, and been able to, now I'm on that side of the table. Now I'm the small business, I'm the startup, and I'm, scrappy and trying to win business from Lockheed Martin and others. And it's been amazing. So I've had this great privilege to be able to successfully raise money and bring amazing people onto my team. I can't stress enough how fortunate and blessed I am that the people who are on my team have chosen to, startup life is great, but it ain't easy.
100%.
And, people who have very senior, very comfortable lives have put in with me. They've sacrificed a lot to realize this vision that we have, and it's just been amazing. It's been just the privilege of my life to have this team assembled and to be executing on this path. I guess it was about maybe a year and a half ago that we met. I'd already started Phoenix, and then we met, And it's been great to have the relationship with you and AXR. And yeah, again, one of the great people in my life. And I'm so privileged. I count you amongst it. Absolutely. You're on the team.
I appreciate that.
You don't have a Phoenix badge, but you're on the team. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's perfect. I appreciate that. That's a goal. Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's an amazing journey and super excited for you and what's about to come. And thank you for making us a part of your journey. It's been incredible to be in the back, being able to support you and watching you just, rise from the ashes, I would say, as a phoenix.
Like Phoenix, yes.
As a phoenix would. Yeah, amazing living up to your name. Really do appreciate that. Since this is a finance podcast, let's kind of dive into the numbers, how you've kind of made your money throughout your journey when you started actually saving up. When was that? And you were like, okay, I have some extra cash to do something with.
Yeah. It's been a bit of a learning journey for me, as you might imagine. I had a very technical background, but I was very financially illiterate. And I really was not in a position to save, and worse, I didn't know, I wasn't smart enough to save until I got into my early 30s. And, a lot of that had to do with the fact that I was in school for so long.
Right.
I did save a little bit. I spent 2 years between undergrad and graduate school, and I was able to save a little bit there. I did stash away some money, but from most of my 20s, I didn't save one penny. I mean, I had savings, but I'm talking about IRAs, I'm talking about retirement accounts.
Right.
Formally saving money in tax-advantaged vehicles that can position you as, for retirement, where you can you can take care of yourself. And again, it's embarrassing, but it's true. I have a fairly strong mathematical background, and you would think someone with that kind of background would understand the power of exponential growth and investing over time, and how small percentages can add up. And $100 invested when you're 15 is more than $1,000 when you're invested in 25, and so on and so forth. So these are the types of things that I really came to appreciate and value in my early 30s. Now, the good news was I was very fortunate to not only land a fairly good job where I had excess money where I could start saving, and I was maxing out my 401ks and starting to shove money into brokerage accounts and so on. I also had someone in my life, a personal friend who's older than me, who was the first person who taught me about saving and investing. Didn't come from a background where that was a thing that you really did.
Right.
And when it comes to preparing yourself for when you want to retire in 30, 40 years, invest now. It'll be so much easier if you start to do it now. And so from that moment, I became very disciplined about it. So I maximized everything I could for many years. And then, by the way, when I got to Samsung, they had a program called NQDC, which is a wonderful program that allows, in a tax-advantaged manner, protect additional income. So you can designate a lot more income. And so I was saving, depending on the year, between 30 and maybe 35% of my gross income into the 401k, and then mostly into the NQDC. Despite the fact that I didn't invest in the 20s, because of NQDC, I was able to catch up with folks that may have been investing from back then. But it was only because I stumbled into this opportunity. And that's really the main way that I was able to catch up. If I hadn't been for NQDC, I'd be much further behind the 8 ball.
How much were you able to contribute more because of that?
So you could designate up to 80% of your income. And I would put in on the order of between 20 and 25%. And then the bonus was treated separately. So we had our base salary, which was very generous, more than I needed. So I took 20 to 25%, depending on the year. And then the bonus, I generally would either do 50% or 100% of the bonus that would go into that NQDC.
Amazing.
So that's why I was able to, save. I was able to put quite a bit of money in there, and it was all pre-tax. So you could think of it like a 401k, essentially.
That's really lucky, because you don't get to see that too often, actually.
No, especially at my level. I was not a senior executive. I was a principal engineer, not a senior executive by any stretch. But they were very generous. And by the way, that person who was in my life, this person, Chris, we both went to Samsung at the same time from Lockheed. And he knew about this NQDC, and he's like, do it. Do it. Put as much money as you can. Put as much money as you can put in there without your wife divorcing you, which is what we did.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm happy that, there was somebody like that in your life. Everything has a foundation of trust in this. So having that relationship is vital. And sometimes we ask the wrong people for the wrong type of advice. Their intentions are right and good, but they just might not be an expert in that field. I'm really glad he was able to push you and kind of help you change that trajectory. And how old were you at that point?
32.
Yeah,
31.
that's a good age, at least to start going. So that's really good. So how were you really managing your money once you made it? And then we'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into how is it different after, our relationship and stuff.
Because I had a fairly sophisticated investor who was a friend. Seem elementary to you or anyone who has any financial literacy, but to me, I didn't have any of that in my background. Just the notion of a balanced portfolio. You've got, a certain percentage you're putting in bonds, a certain percentage you're putting in blue chips, a certain percentage you're putting in ETFs, a certain percentage you're putting into high risk. That was the overall strategy that I started to implement. Riskier plays that ended up paying off. There were a couple of investments that I made they turned out really well. And again, it was luck and timing and all that, which is correct, yeah. But overall, ended up happening was spending a lot of time managing it. So, it's one of these things where you get up in the morning, you check your email, and then now I'm flipping over to Yahoo Finance and checking and I'm taking time.
Right.
I'm taking time that I'm not being productive at my day job. I'm taking time that I'm not spending with my kids or my wife, managing this. Well, and the other thing is some of the plays were just long term and I could set them and forget them. Some of them you had to manage, some you had to pay attention to. And that's the type of thing where the very scope of financial planning and financial management is actually pretty massive. First off, just understanding the bond market requires years of experience and expertise and education.
Right.
I never really played in bonds because I got to and I was like, the amount of time it would take me to come up to speed, I can't do it. What I did was I limited myself to a few verticals that I studied and I felt pretty confident that I could invest in. Technology is an obvious one. I'm a semiconductor guy.
Right.
I'm gonna play in that space. Oil and gas is another example. I spent the time and effort to kind of get smart in that vertical. But again, I made some good moves there. But I couldn't do the same thing in banking. There's an opportunity cost there because I'm only making bets in these small fractions, these small sectors of the economy, sectors of the market. If I had just either spent a lot more time to come up to speed in all those areas or turned it over to someone that's their full-time gig. I'm a pretty handy guy, but I won't do a better job and it sure won't be as fast as if I pay a professional roofer to do it.
Right.
It just is. It's just a fact that specialization matters. Specialization brings value.
Right.
And when you are a roofer and you know all the tricks of the trade and you know how to, you can just do a better job. So that was really where I ended up establishing a relationship with you because I'm like, I just sort of recognized, and there was also a scale of it. When I had $100,000 to manage that was different than when I had a lot more than that. In the interest of efficiency and time management, that's the right time to hand it over to a professional financial manager. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think have a really good example that you shared with the roofer. And another thing to add to the roofer with the roof, it might be once every so often that we need to get a roofer.
Yes.
With money management, that's almost a daily job.
Every day. It's every day. I was doing it every day.
Right.
At least I was monitoring every day.
Yeah. So I would say replacing a roof, I would get it because that's once every so often. But with this, that would be daily time taken out.
That's right.
That you could be spending with your family or that you would be focusing on building a business that you did now. So how different has it been with having an advisor? What are you able to do afterwards? What are you able to establish? What are you able to accomplish? What is your quality of life has been since, we've kind of started our relationship? Because I think that would be a huge, huge benefit to our audience and everybody.
Sure. The business started to take off, and that's around the time. It's funny, we started talking about, I think maybe a month before I raised my first capital. And then the next thing I know, I get, first money in, start to grow, start to hire. My time starts to shrink away. And the timing was just perfect. And more of my time, more of my attention is just becoming so precious. And again, I've got 3 kids, a lovely wife I love very much. I love to spend time with her as well. I'm looking at my life and I'm just taking the things that I don't have to do. Maybe I would have done in the past. And I'm just choosing not to do those things where I can shift the responsibility elsewhere. And so this is a great example. My phone will tell you what apps you're not using and recommend that you delete.
Right.
Yahoo Finance. It's like you haven't used it. You don't use it anymore. Like you can go ahead and delete this one. And I was like, oh my. I was like, wow. The other thing that is not applicable to everyone, but for those who are in a position like me, who are trying to build a business and every dollar matters, you want to get as much power from the engine, your capital, to the wheels, which is your business. You're building your infrastructure. When it's actually been incredibly valuable, and again, I'm very appreciative to be able to lean on you for some of the business servicing. So we've set up some accounts that have been very favorable to my business for a number of reasons that have then been able to integrate very easily with the main business accounts that I operate out of. And there have been a lot of advantages to that from just a pure financial standpoint because of the relationship I've had with you. When I talk to other founders who don't have this kind of relationship, and they're like, just as an example, they've got the bulk of their money sitting, earning 0.5% versus what we have, which is, a much more favorable situation. It's something that you wouldn't normally get as a startup.
Correct.
So again, it's not applicable to everyone, but I would say especially for those folks who are in my position that are really trying to build a company, there's just some real tangible benefits to bringing on board a professional into your personal life who can, at times, when appropriate, and all of the disclaimers and legal things aside, that really can help you power up on your business side. It's been just terrific.
That's amazing. That's really glad and happy to hear. I think a couple of things that you touched upon, I think are gems that even if like daily you'd be spending about 20 minutes to an hour monitoring and or making moves. So one thing that I think is really great is even if you're not making any moves, you're still spending time monitoring, which now you have that time to divest and invest it in different places where you want your time to be instead of being responsive, right?
That's exactly
being
right.
more proactive, which I think it's amazing. So I'm really glad you've been able to utilize us for the business as well, and we've been able to be a partner in that. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Think about it is what's the optimal use of my 20 minutes? Just is the case that it's a better use of my time to invest that into the business than spend it setting trades at Fidelity.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I guess the answer is that your quality of life would have increased with us being involved.
Yeah, I think that's an easy one. Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. Yeah, that's music to my ears. Thank you very much. Really happy to could share with the audience two main topics that you would want everybody to take away from you, whatever they might be, that you think are the two most important things that people need to learn about money that would help them change their lives.
Yeah, I think the number one is to get in the market. There's a desire, it's a natural desire. By the way, it makes sense to time the market. And people always talk about this, timing the market. In fact, I did notice a headline recently that Warren Buffett, for example, stockpiled a bunch of cash in his wake. If you're Warren Buffett, go ahead and do that. I would say for the vast majority of the people, though, don't time the market. And in fact, I kind of put my money where my mouth is here. Not for me, but for my 3 kids. One of the things I did is I got them set up with IRAs and putting in their money now. I want them to see it from when they're 11 and 13 and accrue all the advantage of the exponential growth, even though it can be a little warbly as it goes up. But again, over time, you really want to tap into the growth engine of the market. And, fundamentally, it's not a zero-sum game. It's the beautiful thing about the market is what you're doing is not only are you taking advantage and benefiting and becoming enriched by the growth of businesses, you're also helping. Money is the capital that allows companies to grow. It really is a win-win situation.
Correct.
It's important that there be strong capital markets that are well-funded to give companies the fuel they need in order to grow. But yeah, I think as far as misconception is, I'm going to sit this one out. There's a recession coming. Let me go time it. By the way, I did that too. I don't think we've even talked about this, but I took my money out at a certain time in the past, and I parked it for about 2 or 3 years and just watched the market go up about 20 or 30% over that. I was convinced there was going to be a recession. There was not. And I just lost on about 20 to 30% conservatively growth on that. So yeah, my takeaway from that experience was very humbling, number one. I'm not smart enough to time the market. And over the long haul, over the 30, 40, 50 years that you'll be investing, yes, there's going to be dips. It's going to come down. But over time, what you're really investing in is the growth the innovation, the build, the muscle, the calories being burnt by companies all over the world. We're actually building value in the market collectively as a humanity, and you want to participate in that. So get in, do it. Don't sit on the sidelines. Sure, a recession may happen, but over the long haul, it's much better to just be in. Go.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that because you're an owner, right? As soon as you buy a stock, for example, or even buying bonds, you're a lender. So I think it's great to take ownership. I love the fact that, what you're harping on is, building and stuff like that. Another thing about being in the market and just being a business owner, sitting out or trying to time the market, there's not really going to be a green light or a green flag like, hey, come on in, now it's ready. You kind of watch the market take off for about 20-30%, you were saying. And it's a real tragedy, to be honest, right? And I think the most important thing is, even though these are just words and, this might be glossed over as just another advice on X, Y, and Z, I believe this is the most important advice, most important words that you're saying, is because if you follow what we're talking about and have good money management and good skills, it's going to make a huge impact on your life. Sure. It's going to have a drastic effect. So if you make sure you pay attention to your money and make sure your money is working how you want it to work, it's going to take care of you in every single aspect of your life, or a lot of different aspects of your life. So not only is it great advice, it is life-changing advice. And if you don't do this, the impact and the negative side effects are really ugly, right?
I had my friend that I mentioned earlier, I remember he told me this thing: either you work for money or your money can work for you. I know that's an old saying,
right?
But to me at the time it was new. I was like, oh, that's really insightful. He's like, yeah, that's been around forever. But it's true. It's like you want to be in a position as soon as you can to have your money working for you. Because, as a W-2 employee, as someone who's working for a living, it's a grind. Your income will always be limited by the number of hours you work. Right. Whereas once you can start in an intelligent fashion, putting your money to work, now it will produce its own return. So, yeah, get in, do it. Do it now.
I think advice on money really should be studied and valued, and make sure you're getting it from the right source, because great advice is life-changing, as you're mentioning, right? Absolutely. So that was your first thing, which we call the cash opportunity cost. So some people, sit on the sidelines with cash, waiting to time the market while, the market, in Ryan's case, did about 20-30%. And that money, say if it was 100K, for example, would have gotten us additional about 120, 130K in that example, not taking compound interest into account, of course. So that's a really great thing to share with the folks. And for your second thing, what would you want people to really know about?
Again, it's one of those, we touched on it earlier, but I just want to say it again because it really is important. Time and effort it takes to properly manage wealth. Once it, however you define it, it really is a full-time job. It's a risk of repeating myself, but it's important, especially for founders. If you're in the beginning of your journey, first off, God bless you, good luck. I'm rooting for you. But it just is the case that in the best case scenarios, you're going to become successful. And success it's just guaranteed that it will consume more and more of your time and attention, and which is great. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful thing to build a company. However, if you are attempting to manage your own wealth, you could find yourself in a situation where you haven't been checking, and you haven't been actively managing your account, and a couple of your trades go sideways because you're just not paying attention. You don't have the time. So I would encourage you, especially for early stage founders, to find a professional to manage your wealth. And you should do it earlier than maybe you think you should, because by the time it needs to happen, you're going to find yourself needing one, it's going to be too late. Now you're going to have to go out and find someone you can trust, someone you can establish a relationship with. These are all really important things. It's your money, after all. You have to find someone that you can have that kind of relationship, that kind of trust. And that's not something you should do quickly. So yeah, that's really my two main recommendations is, number one, get in the market, and number two, especially for founders, but really more generally, find someone that you can trust. Find someone that is really looking at the entire market, that has the resources. Another thing that we didn't really touch on here, but it really, we should have touched on it, is, not only is it just different sectors of the economy that you have to become expert on, it's different strategies that are, in a sense, are more horizontal in nature. For example, putting in play certain types of investment vehicles that you don't even have access to, amateur investor, things where you can, for example, build up fairly sophisticated hedged positions that have, good upside with very strong downside risk management, where you can really protect yourself against the downside risk of a real recession. Things that you just don't know how to do. Vehicles that you have access to because of the relationship with a professional that just are simply not available to retail investors. All of this opens up to you. And so even if you think you might not be there yet, I would highly encourage you to look into it, because you probably are.
That's amazing. And thank you for sharing that. I think it's very essential for all the founders who are serious and want to take their business to the next level. Ryan already was in the mindset of, I know my success is right around the corner. And because of that mindset, he was able to spend his time to build that trust and relationship amongst each other. And now he's able to focus just on the necessities and knowing his money is working exactly how he wants it, and he can dive into the details whenever he would want, and it'd be a lot quicker for him. I think that's a game changer.
Absolutely.
Right? Because that's constantly on everybody's mind is, hey, I'm optimizing my money, especially for people who are trying to change worlds, trying to build something new, right? They want to make sure that every aspect of at least their life is being optimized. So yeah, hats off to you for having the vision at the time you did. We'll wrap this up with bringing it back home to learn about you more personally. So one thing that you mentioned in the very beginning was you've lived in a lot of different places. So if you can kind of tell us a little bit about where you're from.
Oh, boy.
So yeah, I would love to hear that.
I grew up in a town about an hour outside Chicago called Aurora, Illinois, and lived there until I was 18. And then I moved to North Carolina, and I went to school in North Carolina. North Carolina is beautiful. And then I've lived in Tennessee. Nashville was a wonderful. I lived there for about 6 or 7 years. That was a great town. Love Nashville. Albuquerque as well. Lived in Albuquerque for a little bit. I was at Sandia National Labs shortly. New Jersey for a little stint, and then Philadelphia for about 5 or 6 years. Yeah,
wow.
I was there 5 years. Yeah. And then Texas. Yeah. So I've been around. So I think in rank order, and by the way, in some sense, you can judge a state by its DMV, I think. And so in rank order of like worst to best, Pennsylvania had the worst DMV, followed by Illinois, and then New Jersey. You might think New Jersey's worse, but it wasn't.
Pennsylvania was
the worst. And here's why. At least back then, if you wanted to get a license, they didn't take cash, they didn't take credit card, they didn't take checks.
What did they take?
Money orders. They would only take money orders. So, yeah. And Texas, by the way, is the best. I remember I walked into the Texas DMV when I moved here, and they were polite. It was efficient. I scheduled it. They took credit cards to pay the payment. It was lovely. Yeah. By far and away, this is the best place I've ever lived. Absolutely.
That is awesome. And I'd love to know a little bit more about your family as well, whatever you would like to share.
Sure. Yeah, I've got three kids, three lovely kids. My oldest, Emily, she's a sophomore at the University of Illinois. She's a physics major. Very proud of her. Very sharp.
Bringing it back home, back to Illinois.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. She's up in Urbana, and oh my gosh, she loves it so much. I love it too. I love to go visit her. It's such a great campus. UIUC is beautiful. And then my son James is 14, so he's in 8th grade. And obsessed with football and making videos in the they call it the Green Belt he and his friends ride mountain bikes in this forest preserve here, and they do these videos. Yeah, his one video got 20,000 views.
Get out!
No. It was pretty good.
We'll be happy if we get that many views.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, exactly. And they're like,
here's to hoping to beat your son's videos.
yeah, I don't know. That's going to be a stretch, but
Huge stretch.
yeah, but he's into it though. They do a good job.
That's amazing.
Pretty funny, very creative kids and all that. And then my youngest Nora is 12. Beautiful little girl. Oh my gosh, she's so smart and so she loves animals. She's big into horse riding. So we got her. I feel like she's going to run that. She's going to run the barn in not too long. I think she's going to take it over. My wife, of course, Becky, is brilliant. She's a cardiac nurse. Is actually in school right now, going to be a nurse practitioner. So she's going to pivot a little bit into be a psych NP.
That's amazing.
Which is awesome. And yeah, we're really excited for her.
Hats off to people like her.
Oh my gosh, she's so good. Oh my gosh, I'm so blessed to have her in my life.
Last but not the least, I think we get to learn a lot about the person from who their parents are. So I just wanted to learn a little bit more about your parents.
Yeah, my parents are great. They're still together. They're still alive. They are
huge. Congratulations.
Yeah. No, I'm very. Oh my gosh, and they're a big part of our lives. So they're very active in our lives. Yeah, they live in Beaufort, South Carolina. So and they've been there for 25 years nearly. They love to travel. My dad fully retired not that long ago, about a year or two, but they've always been big travelers. They go all over the world. In fact, right now, they're still there. They're in Japan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, they go all the time. I mean, they're always somewhere. They're very active, very energetic. I always joke my parents' social calendar is like way more full than mine. Like they're very, very active. But yeah, my dad was a psychologist. He had a practice. And my mom was a school teacher, taught Spanish and history. So amazing people. I wish they traveled here more. They get here, not enough in my view. And we try to go there at least 2-3 times a year. But
that's really good.
Yeah, they're beautiful people.
Yeah, that's amazing. They're in Japan. Yeah. I think traveling is super important and it's the biggest teacher in life at the end of the day. So I'm glad, they're still staying students, and I think because if you stay as students, you stay young.
That's right.
That's
Absolutely.
the secret, I think.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for everything, Ryan. This was super fun. Huge honor to have you. I think people will get to learn a lot from your experience and be able to relate as well. So if there's anything else that you would like to share, but other than that, I would say it's been super helpful.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to share my story. I'm thrilled to be part of your team as well, and it's just a pleasure to be able to chat and share whatever. Hopefully someone will find it useful.
Yes, 100%. I have no doubt. Thank you so much, Ryan. Really do appreciate it, man.